unsolicited housing or have been exited for some reason. In addition to providing the emergency housing, there is also a homeless drop-in center at this site. So every week, Monday through Friday, homeless individuals can go to the site between the hours, I believe, of 9 and 12 and receive hygiene kits, water, and limited food for them if they desire. The city decided to expand the emergency housing program with the acquisition of the former Flamingo Motel. This was acquired in May 2023. It was a 21-unit motel. And again, on average, it serves approximately 30 individuals at any given time. With the acquisition of the Flamingo Motel, the city was able to again expand the services that it was providing. And it was done in combination, again, with Yolo County Housing. They were master leasing other motel sites in the city, and they felt that it would be a lot more, that it would be better to serve our residents if they consolidated all of those individuals into one site. Fortunately, we had discussions with the motel owner when we were looking at acquiring sites back in 2020. So we were able to resume those conversations and acquire the Flamingo Motel site again in 2023. We also have, in addition to the rooms that are being used for emergency shelter, we have what is called a respite room. The respite room is for individuals that need housing on an emergency basis, a real emergency basis, basically just overnight or maybe for a couple of nights. So that room is being kept for that purpose only. During that time, our case managers and our program manager work with them to try to find them alternative emergency housing options, whether in Woodland or somewhere else. But again, that respite room is meant as very, very short term, so that it's available for any other individuals or family. Last year, the city acquired 2 additional motel sites, the former Pickwick Motel and El Tejon. And again, as a way to expand the services that we were providing, and looking forward, because we knew that at some point in the future, the 2 original sites at the Roadway and the Flamingo would have to shut down. And we needed replacement sites so that we can transfer those individuals from the Flamingo and the Roadway Inn site. These 2 properties were in not the best shape, so they needed a lot of rehabilitation work. So after the acquisition in August of last year, we began the rehabilitation work, which is currently undergoing. We are expecting the rehab work to be completed probably by May of this year. Once the rehabilitation work is completed, then we will begin to make placements into those units and also start some of the transition from the Roadway Inn and possibly the Flamingo as well into those sites. The Pickwick Motel is a 19-unit property. The El Tejon site is slightly larger and has 23 units. Again, once we transition individuals from the Roadway Inn and the Flamingo, the walk-in services that we provide at the Roadway and the respite room services will also be transferring to one of these motel sites. More recently, we are in active negotiations with the owner of the Westwood Motel. Staff received approval from the council a few weeks ago to acquire this site as well. We hope to be under contract for this property in the next couple of weeks and anticipate that we will be closing escrow in May 2025. And I apologize for the typo. I see that it says 2026. That would be May 2025. Again, this is a smaller site. It's a 19-unit motel that will also require some rehabilitation work. And just like the Pickwick and El Tejon, the idea is that this site will be used not only to accommodate some new occupants, but also accommodate some of the individuals that we will need to transfer from the roadway and the Flamingo sites. So the program is designed to address the immediate housing needs of our homeless population. It does follow a housing first model with a low to no barrier entry. This means that the individuals that are placed into these units, a lot of them are active users. They do have substance abuse issues, mental health issues. But again, the intent is to get them stabilized. We do provide case management services for them, stabilization services. Our case managers work with them very closely to ensure that they get the services that they need if they're not provided on site. They help them get the medical services and health services that they need, either through the county or through other health providers. They also get basic amenities, such as hygiene kits, limited meal distribution, and obviously a shelter. Again, the ultimate goal of the program is to get these individuals stabilized. It's hard to work with an unhoused individual and get them the help that they need when the top priority is where they will be sleeping tonight or the next night, right? Once we're able to provide a shelter, we can focus and work with them on getting them those services that they need so that ultimately we can try to place them into permanent housing. The program is run on a day-to-day basis by our program manager, James Mayoral. He does an excellent job and is a perfect fit for the program. You can imagine, because of the clientele that we serve, it's a very challenging group. So you really have to have a very thick skin. They run into a lot of unique scenarios, health issues, things of that nature, and they have to manage that on a day-to-day basis. Aaron Hyatt is a program technician who assists James with the day-to-day operations. And then we have a maintenance person, Johnny Sam, who deals with, again, the day-to-day items that may go wrong at the motel, whether it's sewer lines that are clogged, a window that gets broken, things of that nature. Fortunately, and especially with the acquisition of the additional sites that we are currently prepping to take clients, we were able to get approved 2 additional staff for the program. These are currently vacant, and we hope to fill them in the next few weeks or few months. One of them is another program technician who will be assisting again with the day-to-day operations, and another maintenance person who will be assisting Johnny with the overall maintenance of the property. Our staff worked very closely with community outreach and support at the PD, and I'm talking about Mark Sawyer, our homeless coordinator, Taylor Nelson, and her group. They are the ones that go out into the encampments to deal with those situations and provide referrals and services. James works very closely with both Mark and Taylor on the placements. That's one thing that we definitely try to do at our motel sites, is that placements have to have some connection to West Sacramento. They either have to be a former resident or a current resident. They have to have family in West Sacramento or have some connection in West Sacramento. That's always been a concern of the council and some of our residents, that we don't want to be a magnet, as you often hear, for other cities in the region. So we try to limit that by making sure that those referrals and placement have a West Sac connection. It doesn't mean that we will not take, on an emergency basis, other clients, especially from other cities within Yolo County. So there are some individuals that may not have a West Sacramento connection, but are within Yolo County. if they do get individuals that are from Sacramento or some of the city in the region, they will connect them with their case managers at Sacramento County and try to help them that way and refer them to the appropriate jurisdiction. And of course, the rest of the EDH staff. We serve as the administrative arm for the program. We are the ones who handle all of the contracts for the case managers, the security, just about everything else, the grants that we apply for the funding to operate these programs. EDH staff administer that aspect of the program. Oh, sure what happened with my map here, but I wanted to show you the location of the sites. And my outlines are gone. I don't know if you can see my pointer, but this rectangular shape here is the location of the roadway inside, which was the first site that we acquired. Across the street, next to Capitol Bowl, is the former Flamingo site, which we acquired in 2023. Pickwick and El Tejon that we acquired last year are located in this general location and this general location. And then the Westwood Motel, which we are in the process of entering into a purchase and sale agreement, is the one at the corner of Poplar and West Capitol Avenue. So you can see that these are spread apart. Managing the programs and the sites is a little bit challenging. It will be a little bit challenging because they are separated. It was a lot easier when we had two sites right across the street. And that is why we are looking at consolidating the homeless emergency program into the three sites that we will have control over, at the corner of Poplar and West Capitol Avenue, which is the Pickwick Motel, El Tejon, and the Westwood. Between all three sites, we will have about the same number of rooms that we have currently with the roadway and the Flamingo. So we should be able to accommodate most, if not all, of the current occupants that we have at our motels, and then add some additional ones that we have committed with the county. The acquisition of all of the motel sites has been a combination of local funds, state funds, funds from the county. The county has been a great partner with the city in providing funding, not just for the acquisition, but also for the operations of the program. And again, talking about the long-term plan, we hope and we intend to shut down the roadway inside by the end of this year. The Flamingo site, originally our intent was to close it down by 2026. This may change, and it may actually happen a lot sooner. But again, that is why we have planned to acquire Pickwick, El Tejon, and now the Westwood, to make sure that we have space to accommodate those individuals that will be displaced once we close those sites. And again, it's going to be allowing for a more centralized hub to provide all of our emergency housing services and more efficiency in terms of operations. We pay for security 7 days a week. We have case managers. So overseeing all of that and making sure that we operate as efficiently as possible, having that centralized location of all the three hotels will be a big help. That concludes my presentation, but could you answer any questions, commissioners?
I may have missed it, but why are we closing the Flamingo and the roadway in?
So from the get-go, those sites were never meant to be long-term sites. Specifically on the roadway inside, the roadway inside was included in the overall planning for the Grand Gateway Master Plan. It's a 300+ residential mixed-use community that will be coming down the road. And the site where the current roadway in sits has been designated as actually a site for affordable housing. So as part of that overall Grand Gateway Master Plan community that will be built, that site will contain an affordable housing development in the next few. Same with the Flamingo. Again, these sites were never meant to be permanent sites. They were always meant to be used at an interim basis and then ultimately be redeveloped in the near future. And we have an opportunity to sell the site with a local business owner. So we are in current negotiations with that as well, conversations. But again, it's still up in the air whether that's going to happen or not. But that is one of the reasons why those two sites are going to be closed down. And again, from the beginning, it was always intended for these sites, interim sites, not permanent. And that's also the case for the Pickwick, El Tejon, and the Westwood. Those sites are not meant to be permanent. They will probably be operating on a more longer-term basis than these two sites, but they will not be permanent. At some point in time, when we feel that it's appropriate, those sites will also be redeveloped too.
So, thanks for the presentation. So when you say the former roadway in will have 150 units, so it's already something loosely planned for that, or somebody made a proposal on that?
So that's a requirement, a state requirement, because the site is owned by the city. Surplus Land Act has a requirement that a certain percentage of any development that is owned by the city that is offered for residential development, they need to set aside a certain percentage of total units as affordable.
Raul, I can add to that too. We actually did complete a solicitation for a developer for the Grand Gateway Master Plan last year. We went through an evaluation process and selected a development team for exclusive negotiations over the next several months. So SKK Investments is a developer in partnership with Urban Core. So we have been negotiating with them as they continue to do their due diligence and complete, their initial concept designs and cost estimates. We also have a role during that exclusive negotiation period to complete updated zoning district, which was recently adopted, as well as a tentative and final map for the property. So all of that has been in process for over a year now.
And the same thing for Flamingo site?
The Flamingo is not included in that solicitation.
No, but it's a separate.
That's a separate property.
But is anybody selected for that, or any?
We haven't
solicitations
completed
going
a
on?
solicitation. Council did authorize negotiations with a potential buyer, but we don't know if that's going to happen. We certainly don't want to have an empty motel. So our plan for that site is once participants in our emergency housing program are transitioned to our new 3 properties, we will probably move forward and demolish the building so that we have a vacant site that's ready for future redevelopment.
Go to the slide to El Tejon. One back.
More?
El Tejon, so for the El Tejon motel. El Tejon
Let's see.
back.
That
Okay,
one.
yeah. So they have two buildings, 19 unit and 23 unit.
Correct. That's the Pickwick Motel is the 19-unit motel, and the El Tejon is the 23-unit motel. So in the picture, the bottom picture shows Pickwick, and the top shows the El Tejon.
So these properties that we bought, and you said Yolo County has a big financing on that thing is done. But overall, our budget is okay for their purchase and operating costs that we have.
So currently, we do have funding from Yolo County and state grants that we are using for operations. We probably have operations funds for at least the middle of next year. But we are always on the lookout for additional grant funds because we know that, these programs are definitely not cheap to operate. Again, we're paying for case management, which is a key component of the program, security, in addition to all the other utilities and other costs to operate these types of programs. So we're always on the lookout for grant funds to help us with the operations. We have used some of our local Measure E funds especially, but I can say that those have been limited. We have relied primarily on state, federal, and Yolo County funds for the operations of the program.
Thank you.
So one of the goals is to stabilize.
Correct.
So is it working?
So, it is working. I can tell you that the big challenge that we have right now, and this is from talking with the day-to-day operators of the program, is the availability of housing. We can stabilize our program participants. We can get them the services that they need. We can get them have them apply for Social Security, SSI, and get them ready to be exited into permanent housing. But there's a lack of available housing out. So that is really the biggest challenge that we run into, just the availability of housing in general. So we do have individuals there that have been stabilized and have been able to get to the level where we feel that they can be exited and placed into permanent housing, but we just can't locate it.
And then what happens at that point?
So the alternative is to exit them out, but then that means they get exited onto the street. So at this time, they're able to stay there until we find them permanent housing.
So I
So
can
it
tell
has been a
you,
challenge.
I can tell you one story because I meet a lot of these people every Saturday at the food bank. We, a few years ago, met a young woman and her boyfriend who were living at the roadway, and they were both had addiction problems. Once they got moved into the roadway, she also found out that she was pregnant and her baby was taken when the baby was born. But through this program, she is now on her own. They're married. They have the baby back, and she's driving a bus for Yolo Bus. So she drives the route here, and she knows a lot of the people who stroll around the street. She's very gracious and kind and wonderful to them. But yeah, so it takes one success story, and she is one.
Right, yeah. Now, that's not to say that we have individuals there that have been exited because they don't follow the rules. We do have house rules. Even though it is a low barrier entry program, they do have to follow the rules. And we have had several individuals that are placed into the program and they can't live within that setting and they have to be exited. So unfortunately, we do have some turnover. But we do have a lot of success stories like the one that Commissioner White pointed out. And we have a lot of people that have been there because, again, not because they're not ready to be exited, but because they're just housing. Right?
How's the law and order situation, like fights, kind of?
So we, during the daytime, there's always staff, case managers, our program manager, and the assistant who does the day-to-day operations, 7 days a week, from 6 p.m. to 7 a.m., we have security at the sites. Once staff leaves the sites, there's always security there to try to manage and deal with any issues that may come up. Issues do come up because, again, of the difficult clientele, but we've been able to limit any substantially. Over the weekend is a little bit more challenging because there is no staff. But what they have done is the program staff have done is that they have program liaisons. So individuals that have been there for a bit longer than other people who they trust to be their ears and eyes. And they have their contact information. So if anything is happening when there's no security, then those liaisons reach out to the staff and let them know, and then we take the program. But security is one of the big components of the program, just because, again, of the clientele that we serve. And a lot of times it's not necessarily the individuals that are in the program, but their friends, their acquaintances that show up and, us. So.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate the update and excited about the changes that are coming. Next on our agenda, Megan is going to give us an update about the Small Business Accelerator Program, which I just heard from Ernesto this morning, him talking about how he took advantage of it.
Sorry, I always push the wrong button. So good evening, commissioners. So I came to this commission in May of last year, kind of to talk about the Small Business Accelerator Program a little bit more in concept, and got some feedback from the commission and move forward. And so I'm just going to give a brief update on where we are now, and kind of how those efforts have, have evolved since I came to you in May. So I believe when I came to you in May, we had maybe a little bit different programs, and they were not phased out in this way. So I'm going to give a little bit of a brief overview, just a reminder of what the programs are, but I won't go into too much detail except for the new programs that have been added. So we decided to break, there are 7 programs, or 8 programs in total, and we decided to break them out into a phased approach just because it was too heavy a lift to try to roll out 8 different programs at one time. And so phase 1 rolled out we did kind of a soft launch in December of last year, and then did a full launch in January of this year. So that included these 4 programs. So the Food and Beverage Facility Enhancement Program, which was not on the menu of grant items when I came to you in May. And I will go over that one a little bit more later in the presentation. The Small Business Permit Fee Assistance Program, the Small Business Vandalism Relief Program, and the Strategic Marketing Program. Those are all programs that are currently active, and businesses can apply for them. So then in phase 2, which we're hoping to roll out in spring, is the Facade Improvement Program and the Tenant Improvement Program. And so the facade improvement, just a refresher, is really, it's up to $50,000 to any small business to help with beautification of the property. So signage, paint, landscaping, really anything that would help, beautify the exterior of a building. And then the Tenant Improvement Program is intended for businesses that are either moving from an at-home business to a brick and mortar, and they have tenant improvements that they need to make, or expansion in an existing facility, upgrading an existing facility would fall under that, and the tenant improvement is up to $75,000. And then the final one, which is the Small Business Micro Grant Program, is up to $20,000. That is intended to be rolled out probably in the fall of this year. And I mentioned this in my initial presentation, but the micro grant program has the biggest risk to the city because it's not for physical improvements that would stay if a tenant or if a business, doesn't succeed. So we're trying to make sure that we have things firmed up, parameters firmed up around that grant to kind of protect ourselves and make sure that we've geared it to the type of business operations that we want to support moving forward. So just a little bit on the Food and Beverage Facility Enhancement Program. This really came out of the first council workshop that I did in September of 2024 with the A's, now coming in 4-5 days. There's going to be a lot of additional foot traffic in the city and a lot more eyes on our specifically food and beverage facilities. And so this was the program that was really soft launched in December of 24 at request of the council. And that is up to $15,000 to the business owner for eligible expenses associated with building or refreshing dining spaces, technology upgrades, and improvements to kitchen operations and equipment. So we have had a number of businesses take advantage of this program, and I have an update at the end of the presentation. This is any small business with less than 15 or fewer full-time equivalent employees anywhere in the city. This is for privately owned and operated businesses, so no chains, even privately owned franchises are not eligible. And then the facility has to fall under one of those categories, so any type of dining or beverage category. And eligible expenses is really for anything that is not a major construction project. So switch out of furniture, upgrades to kitchen equipment, energy efficient upgrades, refrigeration systems, things that can be swapped out fairly easily. So it's not intended for, major dining room overhauls that would maybe fall under the tenant improvement program, because we were trying to encourage businesses to do things as quickly as possible. And again, that was a request of the council. Another piece that we rolled out was the strategic marketing program, which was another request of council when I went in September. This is in response as well to the A's coming to town and more eyes being on our businesses. So this was up to $100,000 towards the cost of a marketing program. We did receive a number of proposals from different firms and enlisted the help ultimately of the Honey Agency, who we've been working with over the past 2 to 3 months. To develop a strategic marketing campaign for West Sacramento specifically. With that, we did create a small business playbook, which is essentially a guide that small businesses can use to help market themselves using the branding that we have developed with them. And then what you are getting right now is a special insert that we did with Comstocks magazine. So this was actually in their February issue, but we had it printed by itself. And this highlights the Small Business Accelerator program and all of the other exciting things that we have going on in West Sacramento. It highlights a couple of the small businesses as well. So we intend to use that as a marketing piece moving forward. We do also have some new branding on our city website to promote our local establishments. The color scheme of this PowerPoint presentation is kind of alludes to maybe some of that marketing campaign that's going to be rolled out here pretty soon. If you drive down Cabaldon Parkway, you might notice there are some new awesome banners that are lining the streets. Those are also part of this marketing campaign, so you'll see some more materials kind of be rolled out over the next couple of weeks, including that small business playbook. And I will be visiting local businesses to provide them with branded window decals, the small business playbook, and then in that playbook, it also promotes the Small Business Accelerator program. We already went over these. And then, so where are we now? So we did officially roll out, like I said, in January of 2025. I did a chamber luncheon, which was open to all businesses, not just chamber members. On January 9th, we had about 50 people in attendance. And currently we have 11 businesses that have been awarded grant funds under the Food and Beverage Facility Enhancement. And I currently have 2 on my desk that I received at various points this week. We have 1 business that's been awarded for the Permit Fee Assistance Program. And we have 1 business that has been awarded under the Vandalism Relief, and I have another one that is outstanding as well. We actually got our first 2 grant award checks run in this week's batching, so I get to hand deliver those to the first 2 businesses tomorrow, which is really exciting. And so what's next is that we will be, like I said, hopefully rolling out the tenant improvement and facade improvement program sometime in the spring, and then continuing to take those food and beverage facility enhancement program applications as long as folks want to take advantage. That program is a one-time. So once you have utilized money from that program, you are not allowed to come back and use it again, whereas the other programs have different 1-year, 5-year time periods. The food and beverage is a one-time only. grant. So that really concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to see 11 or I guess 13 businesses already applied for that. Whitey's, were they one of the people who, because man, Whitey's looks like a new place.
So they actually have another venture, Emols, at Heritage Oaks Park that they are taking advantage of the food and beverage, but they are on the list for future grant programs for Whitey's. But they are doing a lot of fantastic upgrades to Whitey's now. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
So all these recipient of these grants or the program, their names will be made public?
I can share a list.
Yeah, sure.
I can follow up with a list. I actually had printed my Excel spreadsheet and it's still sitting in the EDH annex right now. So I apologize, but I can definitely follow up with a list of businesses. It's not something that we need to,
Sure.
keep just with us.
And I would like to have a copy of your presentation
Mhm.
and one that Raul did before, please.
Quick question on the marketing grant program.
Mm-hmm.
For the marketing banners on Capaldom Parkway, what size are those specifically?
Oh, Tracy's the banner lady.
If you give me a minute, I'm going to report out on that. So if you can just hold that question, I'll look it up so I can include that in my director's report.
Thank you so much.
Megan, I want to mention just in passing, I still have everything from the West Sac Works magazines, every issue, the original stuff. So if you ever want any of that to put
Okay.
into the,
Okay.
like the bike ride that we have of see all of the publicly
Yeah.
visible art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we do the insert that you have that we did work very closely with Comstocks magazine to produce. That is something that we have the original file for, and we can add things, and we can enlist their help if we need to, because we would like to keep this marketing material kind of updated. It's a
Yeah.
really great piece to have just to kind of hand out.
For the insert, I would just like to comment and say this is really well done, and you guys did a great job highlighting West Sacramento in it. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was a team effort. There were a number of us that contributed, and multiple writers on Comstock. So thank you. Anything else?
You do it.
Good.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, I have so many pieces of paper I gotten lost here. All right, next on our agenda is our consent agenda. The only thing on our consent agenda is the minutes from our January meeting. And we do need a motion and a second, and we need to vote on the minute.
So moved.
Please state your name for the
Commissioner
record.
Kemp, my apologies.
Thank you.
So moved.
Commissioner Guerra, second.
Right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes. All right, we are closing our public part of the meeting, and now we are on to our regular agenda, which starts with the director's report.
Well, thank you. Good evening, Chair White, members of the commission, Tracy Michael, Director of Economic Development and Housing. Building off of what Megan presented, I wanted to share some updates about how we've been getting ready for the A's generally, and then our department specifically. As you can imagine, many of us at the city have been laser focused on getting ready for Monday night. Actually, this past Sunday was a little bit of a test run for us. From everything from plan reviews and inspections for all of the physical improvements taking place at the stadium, to, you may have seen street frontage beautification, a lot of landscape refresh around the area, getting new ordinances in place that allow us to actually enforce MLB security standards that we didn't have, and also hiring new staff and purchasing equipment that's all needed to ensure the safety for our residents, players, and game patrons. So just a tremendous amount of work across all departments at the city. We have a team that meets every week to go through a very long list of items that we've been working on for many months. For our department specifically, one of the first tasks was launching this new component of the Small Business Accelerator Program in concert with a marketing campaign. We have a longer term marketing effort that we started to work on that will continue to pick back up, but wanting to recognize this more immediate opportunity with the A's coming, we pivoted very quickly, and you'll start to see in the banners and a few other things a really, I think it's a perfect fit. The theming, the messaging that promotes civic pride. It also celebrates baseball and its roots here in our community. So I'm really, really excited. I can't wait for you to see it as it starts to roll out. Probably starting tomorrow. You could get a sneak peek on our website, gowestsac.com, which is also a new website that we are branding to help the public more easily access information about all things related to baseball right now. So it's where you can park, where you can stay and dine, and where you can play. There's an interactive dining guide within close proximity to the stadium. So it's really cool to check out. We launched our first online parking reservation system. This is in partnership with the Ziggurat Garage owners. We operate the Ziggurat Garage for special events after hours. In partnership with the Bridge District property owners who control the surface parking lots, and of course the teams. This year, parking in the Bridge District is now managed by ACE Parking, and they have a designated app that you can access through our website. It's called Space, and you can view all of the parking options within by distance from the stadium. And the rates, and you can purchase your parking in advance. So that helps to streamline the process. When we have patrons coming into the game, you have a QR code, they can scan it. It also, they have a very kind of streamlined process for day of purchases, but we are encouraging people to buy their parking in advance as much as possible, because once we have that information in the system, it allows us to message all of the ticket holders to let them know about any specific traffic control measures or directions, or also if there's just any changes, game day changes. So it's a really helpful tool for us to have, and it's been exciting to launch it. Last Sunday was our first, our practice run, and it went fairly smoothly. But if you happen to participate in that game, purchase parking, or know of anyone that does, and you have feedback for us, we welcome it. This past weekend, we held 3 resident meetings at some key project sites within close proximity to the stadium. So at Capitol Yards, at 805 Riverfront, and at Drake's for all of the Bridge District residents. The primary purpose of the meeting was to educate the residents on our traffic control measures, road closures, game day programming, and really not a lot is different from past RiverCat events. It's just the frequency of having really full games is going to increase. And so we wanted the residents to be prepared. We also recognize that road closures and increased traffic impact the residents. So this year we sent over 800 placards to all of the residents in the area that allow them to bypass the road closure. So you can get to their homes, or if they need to leave their homes, they just show it to the traffic control officers, and they'll be able to bypass the closure. So far, after the first game on Sunday, we have not received any calls with questions or complaints from any of the residents. So we're taking that as a really good sign that we're off to a good start.
Can I ask just a quick question? You said Capitol Yards and the folks over in Bridge District. How about the Kind apartments?
We did not send the placards to residents on the Kind project. But what we have done is we have asked residents if they're starting. We don't expect to see a lot of traffic impacts in the Washington District, but if we start to see that, then we can revisit parking and traffic control. But based on our past larger attendance RiverCats games or events like Savannah Bananas, we don't see a lot of parking creep into the Washington district. So we're going to be monitoring that. But for now, we really focused on the larger residential projects that are very close to the stadium.
Okay, well, my son Evan lives at Kine, so if there are problems, you're gonna hear about them.
I would expect nothing less. And also, as you go further out, the road closures shouldn't impact those residents. Also, we updated our book of fees to adjust our parking rates, specifically our special event parking rates. And this is really important. It's only for our metered spaces in the Bridge District, but after 2 hours of parking, when there's a special event taking place, which will now be 151 days now, we have special event rates that go into effect, and they're much higher. And they're much higher in order to discourage game patrons from parking on the street so that we can have that on-street parking available for our local businesses and residents. So, that goes into effect next week, and we hope that it's effective, but we are working with our local businesses to make sure that we have an open line of communication to better understand what's happening so that we can support them, and also the residents that have visitors coming. We want to make sure that we have a place for local business patrons and guests and residents to park. To help address potential challenges, we now have a security officer working in our Bridge District surface lot that is often used by residents. They have monthly passes as well as business patrons to prohibit game day parkers. So if anyone is there to park for the game, they'll be turned away. So we actually have somebody on site for games, which we had a lot of capacity in our Fifth and Bridge lot on Sunday. So hopefully that's also an indicator of how that will operate once the A's start playing. We also have some new wayfinding signage that we located on Cabalden Parkway at key intersections at 3rd and 5th to guide our visitors either into the Bridge District or specifically to the Ziggurat Garage and our 3rd Street restaurants. As our Ziggurat Garage parkers exit the garage, there will be additional signage that highlights our Washington District restaurants. We have banners that are going up. You'll see them on Cabalden Parkway right now. I will say wind is the biggest enemy of banner installers. So they've been out there and will continue to be out there to cover West Cap Avenue all the way from Cabalden Parkway to Harbor, on Jefferson from the freeway off-ramps to West Cap Avenue, 3rd Street from Cabalden Parkway all the way up to where Burgers and Brew, where Burgers and Brew is, and Riverwalk Park. The Bridge District currently has banners, and we are looking into kind of updating those, but we are leaving those be for right now, and so that we can get all of the other banners installed. And there was a question about banner size. So we have 2 different sizes. The larger sizes that you'll see on the main streets are 30 inches by 84 inches. They don't look that big when they're hanging up on the light posts, but they are. And then we have smaller ones, and I was trying to find the dimensions for those, and I don't have those, but that's what'll be on 3rd Street and Riverwalk Park. They're different light structures. We have new digital billboards coming to the city on both ends of the city. One's on the riverfront and one is on the west end of West Cap Avenue. We were hoping those would be up by opening day. It looks like they might be delayed until late April, early May, and we have digital marketing content that we've created in line with our new marketing program that will be showcasing. And
So no more 30 motels when we get off the freeway.
well, that's the static billboard that's still there, but
So this new electronic billboard, that's a standalone, but
yes, 2 of them. And then lastly, we talked earlier about Grand Gateway, the Grand Gateway Master Plan area. Our surface lot at Cabalden Parkway and 7th is actually the location for rideshare drop-off and pickup right now. It was specifically designated there. We are trying to avoid having a lot of vehicles stop and pedestrians get in and out of cars on our major ingress-egress roads. And so we've designated that area as the rideshare pickup and drop-off. And we also, in anticipation of having a lot more visitors there, we've done a lot of sprucing up around the Grand Gateway parcels, refreshed landscaping, we put construction fencing around it, and we will be adding some marketing panels to the fencing. So if you haven't seen it, it's worth a drive by. It just looks really nice. And then lastly, I wanted to share some information about our impact fee reduction program. So this is a program that's been in process since 2022. I think it's come to this commission a few times over the years. Council adopted it in August of 2022 as kind of a pilot program to reduce our development impact fees for projects that were located in high priority infill areas. It was specifically earmarked for the Washington district and our central business district. At that time, our development impact fees were the highest in the region and were an impediment to private development. And we also had a lot of dated master plans and their related nexus studies that result in our impact fees. And so in order to help incentivize development, this fee reduction went into place in those two targeted areas, roughly a 60% reduction in fees for residential projects and about a 44% reduction in fees for office. So just those two land uses. In 2023, Council directed staff to look at expanding the program to cover more of our infill area that aligned with our enhanced infrastructure financing district area, and also to kind of look across land uses because COVID changed the office market. And we were finding that we were getting a lot of other types of commercial or industrial projects that could really benefit from the program. So we updated the program and took some recommendations to council in April of 2024, where council adopted the program. We actually also presented the program, I think, Katie Yancey in May of 2023 shared some information about the program. So the updated book of fees went into effect in July of 2024. When we recommended this new expanded program, and it's across all land uses now, it's the same percentage reductions, but across all land uses. We were originally going to include the Southport Industrial Park and the Seaway properties, which are owned by the port. They're part of our EIFD area, but those areas already had renegotiated reduced impact fees. So we omitted them at that time from the program. What we now have learned is that a lot of those incentivized fee reductions expire next year. Or they may not have been transferable from one property owner to the other if the properties changed hands. So now that we know that, we're actually going to go back to council and recommend that we add those areas into our impact fee reduction program. We may be doing that before the next commission meeting, so I just wanted to share that with the commission. If it gets pushed out a little farther, we could have a more detailed update for you at your next meeting.
On that note, I have a quick question. That reduction of the impact fee is also applicable, or they're charged to individual who's making a single residence?
Well, any project that triggers the need to pay impact fees would be eligible if it's in the designated geographic area infill project.
But you said it's all over the area. I understood that fee reduction impact that now applicable to the whole city, right?
It's not the whole city. No, it's our infill area, which is generally north of the Barge Canal area. But we are going to recommend adding the Southport Industrial Park and the Seaway properties.
So I may have misunderstood. So that's basically a commercial development.
It's actually across
Or
all land uses now. would be eligible if they're in that geographic area.
Oh, I see. If individual resident or somebody wants to build a house, that will be also part of that benefit.
It will, but that kind of speaks to a great example. So if you want to buy or build a single family home in an infill area, the real impetus for the program in the first place was that we recognized we had some dated impact fees and they're in the process of being updated right now, but that takes years. But infill development has the least impact on a community. It's the most sustainable type of development. And so our impact fees weren't reflecting that, which is why the impact fee reduction program helped to address that particular issue, so that somebody who's coming in to do an infill project of any size can benefit from really promoting, you know, more sustainable development practices. All projects have some level of development impact fees that they're required to pay, but they're scaled based on the size of the project. And then one other item, I have been asked about, you know, what's going on with the shopping center where Labu is. And we've been in contact with the property owners. Anytime we have an interested business, prospective tenant, we do reach out to property owners that have vacancies. I know that the property owners are very interested in exploring, you know, kind of the next phase for the whole shopping center. So we don't know what that looks like yet, but we are very interested in continuing to work with the property owners to help support that. We want to see businesses. We want to see a business in the Labu space. So I don't have much more information other than that, other than just to share that we are really excited about hopefully being able to work with them on something. And that concludes my update.
Thank you. So I am going to ask Megan and Tracy a really specific request, because we have such an unusual opportunity with the A's coming here. I am trying to build a model about economic development for some very rural vacation areas that shows that when they add charging stations and tell people you can come here with your EV, trying to figure out how we measure impact. And I have been looking for months for projects, something that somebody has done that suddenly creates visitors that we didn't have before. And guess what we have starting in 5 days? And we've got this really unusual opportunity to look at the impact of an overnight visitor, somebody who gets a hotel room, and a day tripper that's just coming. And so I'm not asking y'all to do it this week, but we should maybe figure out together, maybe with Denise in the chamber, how do we work with our businesses to see that we did this thing and every visitor is worth this much revenue to the community? If you guys haven't been thinking about this already. So I don't know what it looks like.
Challenge accepted.
I got some ideas, and I did talk to Chip about they have to have done some modeling like this before for, like, if we're going to have beer night or something special at the ballpark or bring in the Savannah Bananas. And they do have their own model, but their model is based upon gate fees, not what somebody would spend outside of the ballpark. So.
The other thing that I will add is we are actively pursuing the formation of a tourism improvement district, which, you know, one of the pieces of that would be, that's obviously a high priority of our hotels, is knowing what the impact is of the A's being here. Does that mean we have more overnight visitors? And I'm sure that's something that could be explored under that umbrella as well. So that is something that we are pursuing, that we're hoping to have up and running by the end of summer. And that would, you know, the hoteliers would kind of guide the work plan for that, but I'm sure that's something that they would be interested in kind of taking a look at as well.
That too, and the fact that you're doing the Go West Sac, I mean, this is a community that has never had an outward-facing tourism campaign. So we've just got the opportunity to really create a model for when you do something outside your comfort zone, what does that look like? And we can talk about this ad nauseum because I love building me a model, y'all.
I would
I-
also like to second Chair White's enthusiasm for building models that haven't existed before. It sounds actually quite exciting. I would also like to thank the director for getting back to me with those figures so fast. Usually people just say, I'll circle back on that, and then never happens. So I'd just like to recognize and thank her for that. And then also, as somebody that is currently working at Cedar Health Park, I definitely see that changes in traffic attitude and people, just response times and everything like that. And I would like to applaud the city's efforts. And also, if they would like to work with, if they'd be open for input, I would be happy to supply that. So thank you.
I do have one more item I forgot to mention. I want to thank you for being here this evening. I do not have an update on the schedule for commission appointments, but really hope you'll stick around until we have that. So thank you so much for participating and being here.
I have a follow-up question on our last meeting. There was an entry number 5 under your comments. It was a club pheasant project is progressing with the negotiation expected to conclude soon. So what's the status on that?
Well, we received some direction from council as part of their strategic planning session in early February. And based on that direction, we've continued to negotiate a few other components of the project. The development team is doing a really good job of completing their due diligence to make sure that before we finalize the terms, they understand what their building footprint looks like, what the impact fees are going to be related to that, what construction costs and financing are. They've been doing a lot of homework on making sure they're creating as much certainty with the project financials as possible. And we're really hoping that we have, I will also say that we've had a little bit of a distraction with staffing resources and getting ready for the A's as well. So come Monday night, it's kind of full speed ahead on that project, and the development team is very anxious to try to wrap things up by the end of April.
So can we do something about the signage, because it still says for sale? Maybe update that, because sort of that's asking me the question, hey, it's still for sale, what's going on and stuff.
Well, technically, until we have a deal, it's not sold yet. So I think we can certainly talk to Turton, who put up the signage, and Turton Commercial Real Estate is working with us and helping us to negotiate the terms. We can talk about making modifications there.
Okay, on the closing, I have on the last meeting asked for some information. So if we can look at that. I know you guys are busy, so I'm not in a hurry for that. But it's on your entry number 3, that I requested some information. That's, like I said, nothing urgent, but in the due course of time.
Okay.
Thank you.
So just going back to the homeless emergency housing project presentation, sounds like we're doing a lot of great things. I just wonder if the goal is to stabilize, but the challenge is once they're stabilized, there's nowhere for them to go. Should we relook at that and come up with different goals, different strategies? So the last 2 properties we operated were around for roughly 5 years, and the goal and the plan is that the new ones are going to be around, that they're not permanent, but they're going to be around longer. So I'm thinking 7, 8, 10 years, not sure. So with that type of commitment, I mean, should we reevaluate the goal of the program? If we're trying to stabilize them and get them into permanent housing, but the permanent housing isn't available, then should we relook at the goal?
That's a very good question. I mean, I think one of the goals that we've always thought of and knew that we needed to look into is adding more permanent supportive housing, like the Mercy Housing permanent supportive housing project that's kind of next door to the Pickwick and El Tejon motels. We were very lucky that that specific project came online in 2021. Less than a year into our acquisition of that first motel site. Because of that, that first year we were able to place a lot of individuals into permanent housing because we were able to place them into that permanent supportive housing project. So we had, over 60 placements, something like that. And case managers, along with our homeless coordinator, worked very closely with Mercy Housing and their staff to get our emergency housing program participants into those units. Those projects are certainly not easy to get off the ground. There's a lot of planning, a lot of applying for grants that goes into that. But point well taken. I think we do need to start thinking about the possibility of another permanent supportive housing project. We continue to work very diligently in getting additional affordable housing, which, even though it's not supportive housing, it is low-income housing that some of these individuals could be placed into. You're aware of our 60-unit West Gateway Place Phase 2 project that's currently under construction and that we hope to have completed by the end of this year. That's an option. And our case managers and program managers are working already with Jamboree Housing to see what opportunities we have to place some individuals. The Grand Gateway Master Plan Affordable Housing Project that is currently being planned, where the roadway in currently stands. That'll be another opportunity. So we do continue to work on bringing additional affordable housing into the city, so that residents can have an opportunity to have more options. But it is definitely challenging. And they're not easy. Again, these take typically 4 to 5 years before they come to fruition, just because of the layering of funds that requires those types of projects to obtain before they.
Thank you.
All right, our next item is Commissioner Communications, and I've never really understood how that's much different than the director. I'm gonna be honest. Okay,
So the Commissioner Communications is similar, like if you participate in an event on behalf of the commission, or there's, another program or something that might relate to the commission that a commissioner feels like is worth sharing with the rest of the commission and with the public. This is the space on the agenda where you can do that.
perfect. Thank you. Well, I will mention I was in a meeting this morning that included Don Bosley from Mercy Coalition, and he had some really good news on his project that he presented. So it sounds like he's got his first, he got a long-term lease with Community Lutheran Church, 65 years for the property. And he has some seed funding coming from Sutter Health. So. All right. We also last week had a fascinating chamber lunch with the River Cats and the A's, talking about everything they've had to do inside the ballpark to change it, to make it MLB ready. So very interesting. But Colin sees it firsthand.
Yes, I do. I will. Some of the new changes look really nice. They have a new LED screen up where the green area used to be, which is very interesting. It's kind of weird not looking directly at the River Cat sign and seeing where that was, but I mean, we'll get used to it. I would also like to note that there is a lot less what it feels like local advertising within the ballpark, which was something I really treasured there. If we could find some way to get that back, that would be nice, but probably not for another couple of years. But overall, with the amount of people that were there, it went surprisingly well, and I look forward to another 3 years of having the A's here. So.
That's awesome. So we did learn at that lunch about the advertising. That is a MLB kind of controlled thing. And Chip at the River Cats is definitely looking for ways that they can get more local advertising in there without having to pay the MLB price. So
Thank you so much for that.
it was a good topic of conversation. All right. Any other updates from anybody else? All right. This meeting is adjourned. And thank you to the staff for staying late with us. And hopefully you'll get home in time for dinner.